Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to you live from our comfy couch here on the outskirts of the internet. This is the Gaming Saloon Reviews for January 12th, 2020, with your host, Beastmaker2448, and Ramp It Up Salon.
Hi. Also, I just realized I'm gonna have to get a new image. Like next week.
Oh boy. I'm sure there's one floating out there with all the ghost form changes in the show.
I hope so, because at this point that's kind of been the running theme.
Yeah. Although that would be a lot.
True. Didn't think of that.
Because it's 15 for, or no, it's not 15 because he doesn't use many of the not his proper heroic icons from what I remember. So it's only like 10 maybe? No, 8? I'm not sure. There's so many of those, then the boost variants, and then Grateful, and then Mugen, and then all the Spectre ones, and then all of the Necrom ones, and then whatever else they decide to fucking throw in there. Like all the Dark Necroms, the fucking Dark Ghost, his variation, the fucking Great Iser, whatever his form is in the movie, because they reuse him as the final villain of Ghost as something completely different.
Because of course.
Ghost is fun. I know things from the end of the show, and I'm just like, I also know that Spectre V Cinema, because I actually watched that Spectre V Cinema, and fuck. We might start high, but oh, we are going to end low. Oh boy, we're going to end low.
Like super low?
I honestly don't know. It depends on how you feel about Spectre and his character. And how much do you feel about retconning his character? Because I feel like there's some retconning going on here. I'm not sure. Anyway, folks, that's for next week.
No, this might be fun, actually, trying to figure out a decent image for it. Oh boy.
Oh, I'm assuming Google has not been kind.
Not at all.
Oof. But this week, we are ending off our look at all sorts of Fourze material with Fourze's crossover film with Wizard, Kamen Rider Cross Kamen Rider, Wizard and Fourze, Movie Tyson Ultimatum. There is no ultimatum in this series, in this movie, by the way. I think they just use whatever they want.
I mean, makes sense.
So this movie was, of course, directed by Koichi Sakamoto. So good action all around. Plenty of unborn fight scenes, even if they don't make sense. Because there's one part at the end I'm just like, wait, why did you untransform before you got here? And then do a fight scene and then redo the whole standoff thing to transform. But then, what? Okay, someone wanted an extra fight scene for no reason. But this also has two writers, Kazuki Nakashima for Fourze portion, and then Yoshi Urasawa did the Wizard and Ultimatum portions, which kind of makes sense since those two kind of run together. A quick thing about continuity for those curious. This theoretically takes place between 13 and 14 of Wizard, due to the fact that there is no water dragon, I believe.
But there is land dragon?
There's Hurricane Dragon as well.
Hurricane Dragon.
Yeah, we get Hurricane Dragon and Flame Dragon.
Yeah.
And Fourze's takes place sometime after Heisei Generation's final. Don't worry about the specific time frame of it, because apparently there's continuity issues there, and I'm not about to try to parse that out or deal with it. It's after Heisei Generation's final. That's it. Don't worry about it. So yeah, how'd you feel going into this movie?
I mean, I feel like I was less confused going into it than after the first little bit of it.
It's been a while.
Because the movie tries to like throw stuff in at the beginning, and at least with me, I was like, okay, this is important. Why right now?
It's been a while since we've been with the Wizard crew.
Yeah. And I could tell really quickly.
Yeah. For reference, I think Wizard was our first full season look on original TGSR, wasn't it?
Maybe? I can't remember if it was that or if it was the season after that was the case.
I don't remember, to be honest.
I can find out because, you know, we still kind of have all of that sitting there.
Yeah. So, also for reference, we are recapping from the director's cut version, which adds about 20 or so odd minutes of runtime. It has some changes. I looked on TV Nihon for specific ones, and nothing was really super important to bring up. It's more just expansions of scenes. Either case, this is the director's cut version. We're just watching that. And thankfully, it's probably the last time we ever had to fucking do this. I think. I hope it's the last time we have to do this, because having to be like, oh, we're watching the director's cut, not the original cut. Just, no, it's all one version. There's no more director's cuts.
Oh, no. I was right. It wasn't the first.
Oh, what was the first?
It was the second season that we decided to go straight through one show. Because our first was the god-awful show of Kabuto, followed by us switching to Decade.
Fuck, that's right. Oh my god, that's right. We did Kabuto first, and then we did Decade. Because we got fed up with Kabuto, and we just watched all the Decade. And then I got softer on Decade, because I was just like, this was a bad show when I first watched it, but now I'm just like, it's fine.
I think Kabuto might have made Decade just be so much better.
It helps it has the better version of Kabuto that I like. And I am sure there are people who would want my head for saying that, but no, I prefer the Decade Kabuto. He's less of an asshole. Far less of an asshole. I can believe this man is a decent human being. So yeah,
I'm fixing to look up now to see how far, like how many years that's now been since we've actually touched Wizard.
We watched it
keep going
when it was airing.
This will take a while.
We were watching it when it was airing because I remember having the conversation of like, I don't know how many episodes are left. Because I was watching it with you two on a rewatch sense, but I was also week to week with Wizard as it was airing. So I was like, oh, I know where this leads. I know what's happening further down the show several dozen episodes later.
Yeah, I think that was the case for most of that season. You were easily like 10 plus episodes.
Mm-hmm. Because I also remember there was this huge like confusion about how many episodes Wizard had left, because it had this many episodes left, and then all of a sudden it had like 2 extra episodes for some reason, and we're like, what the fuck's going on? And then we found out about the Heisei Rider special, and oh boy, that Heisei Rider special.
Oh wow. So to put this in perspective, It has been almost 6 years since we've touched Wizard. And
God.
if I'm not mistaken, the first episode of that season, we did actually go back and rewatch the first 2 episodes. Because I think that was what we decided to do, seeing as how I think it was season 3. Yeah, season 3 that we watched the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. I was about to say that comment about 5 years, about meeting you in 5 years. I'm just like, you could be talking about the other crossover you're involved in 5 years from now, technically. I think it's about a year off, but still, you will meet him in 5 years' time. So yeah, it's been, I think, since this originally came out, since I watched Ultimatum. I don't think I've watched it since then until doing it for this show.
Oh wow!
So it was just like, oh fuck, right, I remember parts of this. So I was like, right, I remember who Portrine ends up being at the end, and I'm just like, oh right. I feel so bad for Haruto.
I'm sorry. When the reveal happened, I busted out laughing because I was like, "Oh my god, that is so perfect!" And what made it better, for me anyhow, was the simple fact of there was actually a hint earlier if you were paying attention enough for that.
Yeah, there's actually 2, because her comment about those her catchphrase thing that makes like no sense and everyone's confused about. It's actually referencing like 2 transgender actors.
I thought which statement probably had something to do with it too, but no, the other thing that I know that you picked up on too, rewatching kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like, hey, where's the owner? Why is there no owner? That's weird.
It was one of those when we got to the end and that reveal happened. I was like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me!"
I'm sure Haruto's dick is very confused. I was just like, I really like this person, but now it's he, and he's twice my age. Fuck. Anywho, shall we get rolling?
I guess we shall.
All right, so we kick off with a prologue. I guess is the best way to put it. We're at some abandoned location with a bunch of branches and stuff poking out of it. It's a set. Don't worry about it. We're going to come back here a lot. 4 kids and some person that, as you figured out by now, I'm not going to specify the gender on just yet, are apparently being held captive with helmets on their heads, as they are being used to create an endless monster making machine to make monsters from the past 3 series, along with the goons from the past 3 series. Why just them? Shh, don't worry about it.
I do want to mention here, truthfully, all 5 people actually are important.
There's a part of that sucks, and we'll get there. There's a part of me that's like, why is there this 5 years later in this movie? And it complicates so many things about character arcs and stuff in this, but we'll get there. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is happening. The people responsible for this, partially so, are Medusa and Phoenix from Wizard. They're here because apparently they have kidnapped 5 gates and shoved them in this machine. Because Wise Man told them to do so. Yeah, and they're like, what? Why the fuck are we doing this?
Them because they're like, we hate these jerks that are fixing to be talked about here in just a second. But yeah.
This is when our main villains arise. Zaten, El, and Gara, the Akamizers, which are actually old Shotaro Ishinomori characters that were heroes, but in this movie they're villains because this is the time period where Toei tried to reboot a lot of old Shotaro Ishinomori material in Rider, in Sentai, because they also did Metal Heroes over there. So here's 3 heroes that are now villains. Yes, everything but the designs are the same. So yes, they are more or less the 3 Musketeers in demon form. But they were good guys in their original series. Don't ask. It's weird. Anyway, they're here because they were demons. They were from beneath the earth, but now they've revived and they want to wipe out humanity because fuck them, because they don't like us. That's the short and long of their motivation. Anywho, the 5 of them are powering the machine, and Wise Man's the one who wants them to do this for reasons we don't know yet.
Yeah. And to be fair, the said reasons are kind of dumb in my opinion.
Kind of, yeah. Especially considering what he wants.
Yeah.
Especially what he wants later in Wizard, but whatever. That's Wizard. That's Wizard conversation.
Yeah.
We got enough without bringing in Wizard continuity. Anyway, the Akamazers are also needing to create a Zevar, or Zever, however the fuck it's pronounced. It's supposed to be pronounced, I forgot which. I wrote Saver for a while, and it was like, no, that's not it, it's Zever. But apparently they cannot complete it currently, so they need to complete it 5 years from now, so Elle just hops into a time portal with a briefcase and goes to go get it. Why is there a time portal 5 years and later in this building? Don't ask.
Plot convenience.
I don't know where anyone's ability to travel through time comes from in this movie, because that's not the only person with the ability to time travel. That I'm just like, how?
Okay, but there's only one instance of this where it could possibly make sense. And that's at the end of the movie. Literally at the end of the movie. It is the only time this makes sense.
Yeah. I also have to question where Haruto's had that ring this entire time. Of just like, you have a time travel ring?
True.
Why have you not used it more?
But shh, maybe it's a one-time use.
Yeah, apparently blue means one-time use, because there's another ring he never uses, I think. Although I think he does, because I remember it being in the series at some point, I think. Anyway. So yeah, with our prologue over with, we cut to 5 years later. We're in South Africa as Ryusei, secret agent Ryusei, mind you, because we're 5 years later, so the entire Kamen Rider Club has apparently been doing stuff and look the same now than they do 5 years later, which makes absolutely no sense, actually. Because I can show you a picture of Miyu from right now, and she does not look like how she was like 7 years ago. Because she guest starred in Ryu Soldier this past week. Anyway, he's faking being captured by this group of goons that are helping some guy sell psychic soldiers. But he directs them to some guy named Bamba, who has a switch that can turn him into a monster, which is totally not a Zodiart switch. But since Ryusei got all the information he wanted out of this guy, he breaks out, kicks all their asses. But then they proceed to try to set him on fire because they are also psychic soldiers. Because, spoilers, the entire Fourze section is all about psychic powers.
Yeah.
But this is when Inga shows up from the Fourze movie to come help. And she just shoots the guns out of everyone's hands, so everyone has to do a fist fight, and they quickly take everybody out.
Because no one bends over to pick up a gun.
Nope. No one thinks to pick up their gun. Nope. It's shot out of my hand. It's probably destroyed. Can't do it.
Except that's not how guns work, but okay.
No.
Unless they're plastic, that's not how guns work.
But yeah, they're done. They're done, and Inga is left to take care of the boss here, while Ryusei heads back to Japan to go handle things there. So this is when we cut to the Madagawa, where we see that Haruka, now Nagasawa's character from the series, Kickboxing Club has been doing well, and Usugi informs us that, hey, the Kamen Rider Club has a new advisor, and it's Gentaro, because he's teaching at the school. If you're surprised that Gentaro got a teaching degree in 5 years, I got news for you about everyone else. Everyone's been busy in 5 years.
I mean, to be fair, it is possible. And I think more of what kind of would be the confusing fact is that Gentro's a teacher.
Yes.
But don't worry, the movie actually has a way of somewhat trying to plant said idea. Because
there's
time
a problem.
travel shenanigan.
There's a problem with that photo. We'll get there.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah. But yeah, Gentaro is a teacher and advisor for the club, but unfortunately they only have one member who, upon arriving to the school, is now flying through the air riding her bicycle, and her name's Oki. She's a reference to an Inazuman character. There's a reason I bring that up. We'll get there. But Gentaro hops out of the window and catches her before they fall, because that makes them both safe. I guess.
And because, I mean, it's Gentaro, he acts before thinking.
Yep. But once the scene's settled, he sends her off to class along with everyone else. And this is when we see Takashi, the other important named teacher from the series, show up and more or less tell Gentaro, you're not a teacher yet. Don't worry, that's your character arc for the movie. You'll get there.
And it is something to note that he is referred to as the principal now, so...
Yeah, so apparently he's in charge. I guess he got promoted at some point in 5 years.
Apparently. Which, I mean,
yeah.
I guess someone needed to be.
Which makes me question, like, okay, so he got Hayame's position. Who got Gamal's position? If anyone.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Now we cut to class where Gen and Oki have set up a watching of an interview on the news as we find out, oh, by the way, Yuki's also an astronaut now and stationed on the International Space Station. And apparently has been there for a while. Yeah. Okay, that's not how space works. That is not how astronauts work. That she is not getting to be an astronaut and on the International Space Station in 5 years. I call foul now. That sounds unreasonable. But she slyly mentions to Gentaro, but not to him directly, that she ran into a friend on the space station and that they'll meet up with him later. That makes me very curious on how that conversation, on how that meetup went.
Yeah.
Especially considering who... Okay, there's a confusing part later, but we'll get there. About her story. Because of another character that shows up at the end of the movie, but just, nah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is when another student of the class, Saburo, who is also a reference to Inazuman, again, we'll get there, pretty much poos on all this, says it's all nonsense, and that him and his friends are better than humans. And when Uki mouths off to him, she gets levitated in the air with a whole bunch of stuff and then tossed around, and then him and his buddies get called monsters, and then they ditch class. This is when Gentaro gives chase to them, and Haruka and Usugi join the chase as well. They end up stopping in an alley real quick, so the four of them can toss junk at them with their psychic powers, which is mainly just to levitate shit. So the basics of basic psychic powers we do not have to have a lot of budget for to do.
That, and they didn't want to set everyone on fire.
Again. On CGI fire, mind you, because I think Ryusei was on CGI fire.
Yeah.
But Gentaro and Haruka end up just knocking away the junk. This is when we find out that these 4 kids are the Kaijin Alliance. Or they're at least a part of the Kaijin Alliance, since there's kind of more psychic people than them, as we find out later, but they're not important. But they wish to surpass humans as neo-humans with their psychic powers. So this is when Saburo leaves, so Gentaro gives chase to him in a parkour chase that is actually kind of well filmed. I kind of like the little POV shots we got throughout it.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
Yep. Which leaves Asugi to deal with Haruka, which does not end well for him. Kind of. Depends on your interpretation of that. And Kong and Nezumi to deal with Haruka. I just want to make a quick reference that the gender of the 4 kids from earlier at the beginning of this movie is 1 girl and 3 boys. And the gender of the Kaijin Alliance is 1 girl and 3 boys. You can probably tell the twist from a mile away by now.
And they're kind of the only 4 that get a lot of screen time and are the only 4 that we actually see, use their powers against anyone else in the movie.
Pretty much.
So
I love how this movie tries to play it as this big twist, as these kids in the future are totally unrelated to the kids from earlier. For the whole movie, until the one time Saburo gets called by name in the present.
Yep. Because
they never call each other by names in the present at all, and it's just like, oh come on, this is fucking bloody obvious. Anywho, Ruby ends up dunking a bunch of girls on Asugi, and then he's pretty much taken out of the fight as they go back in the building that they were nearby. And then Haruka gets dunked in the trash by Kong and Nezumi, so they're done for the movie pretty much.
Yep.
This is when we catch up with Gentaro and Saburo, as Gentaro keeps up with all his parkour shenanigans, even though he has to take a drink of water real quick for a hot second before they get back up the chase when they stop.
And I love how he's just so casual about it, too.
Yep. But they end up at some junkyard where Saburo finally decides to transform into Sanagiman? I'm going to presume that's how it's pronounced. It is never said in the movie, but that's what it actually is, because again, it's a reference to Anazaman. We'll get there why I keep saying Anazaman. So Gentaro transforms into Fourze, and then the 2 fight it out, with Gentaro easily getting the advantage on him, because, he's been active as a writer for several years. Because, spoilers, there's an adventure he has as Fourze in between this movie and the end of the series. It's called the Fourze novel. And also, I think maybe potentially ruins the fact that he is surprised by Nadeshiko arriving because he met her in the novel. I don't know. She's listed as being in the novel, but I'm not sure to what capacity. Anywho. Gentaro manages to fight back Saburo until Bomba arrives, our villain for the Fourze portion. He gives Saburo the Saber, which finally lets him just toss Gentaro around, and he untransforms because of it. So so much for that plan. But this is when Bomba turns into a Zodiarch, and he attacks Gentaro, sending him flying over an edge. Only for Yusei to arrive as Meteor and saves him. And the 2 of them catch up real quick before they decide they gotta get the band back together, so we gotta go quickly get all the different club members.
They're a montage.
Yep. So we check in with the other 4 that are not Kingo real quick in some quick scenes. We see that Miyu is a model, and that Shun is also a big-time football star. And they also have a quick line about where one of the reporters with Shun is like, what's your relationship with Miyu at the moment? So I'm guessing they're still in a relationship, but not in a really open out there one, I guess.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Question mark. I mean, the movie doesn't answer it either, so...
No. More or less, the club is only here for practically this portion, and then they're done for the movie.
Yep.
We see that Jake is a reporter for some local magazine of some sort. And apparently he's ran into Shotaro at some point because he has all of his mannerisms down. All of his hat mannerisms. He does it several times. And I'm just like, you ran into Shotaro at some point. You had an adventure with him. You thought he was the coolest person in the world, and you had to be like him. Then we see that Tomoko is also an author for a book, and weirdly enough, Gentaro is the one who gets the other three. Ryusei is the one that goes get Tomoko, and apparently stood in line at her autograph session to get her, to recruit her. He didn't just cut the line and be like, "Oh, hey Tomoko, we gotta go. We got business." How nice of him.
And I kind of like the exchange they had too, right there.
Yeah, I think it was a way of more or less saying, yeah, they're probably a thing, but we're not gonna like dwell on it. You kind of figured they were a thing after the end of the series. They're a thing. Don't worry about it. This is when we get to a research facility where Gentaro and Kengo catch up. With Gentaro once more being told, hey, you're not quite a teacher yet. You still got to do something to prove that you're a teacher.
And Kengo telling him that, friendship might not fix everything.
Which is so un-Fourze, to be honest.
Yeah.
And this is when Gentaro takes out an old photo and says that, like, this put him on the path. And there's a problem with that old photo. Where did the old photo originally come from?
I'm almost willing to bet that it's one of those kind of concepts similar to Haruto giving the ring to Gentaro at the end of the movie. Because the reason I feel like that shouldn't be weighted on is because we will be hitting that pretty soon kind of deal.
Yeah. My problem is, we see that the photo was taken after the events of the movie, after past Gentaro would have been able to get the photo, and the photo is still old.
We assume it's that, though. It might not necessarily have been that.
We see the old photo drop out of present Gentaro's person when he tackles past Gentaro in the past. So that's presumably when past Gentaro picked up the picture.
Right.
Right. So where did the picture originally come from? Because how did
possibly pre-events of the movie?
Apparently, because I'm like,
it might be that kind of a loop. Like I was saying, like Haruto giving the ring to Gentaro, that whole, they already knew about the events to come, so it was better to give the item needed beforehand. So maybe because of past Gentaro having the picture, that prompted him to take the picture as soon as he could.
Yeah.
So that he could have the picture to then give to himself. I don't know. Time travel.
Pretty much.
Travel.
There's no entry point for this photo. There's entry points for everything else that's involved in this time loop.
That's why I kind of feel like that has to be pre-events of the movie.
Yeah.
Because from what we've kind of grasped, Gentaro being a teacher and having the class he does should have been events that happened for a good little bit prior to the movie.
Yes.
So, if it happened early, then maybe?
Yeah, that... I just get the sticking point of we literally see them take the photo after the movie.
Yeah.
Or after the loop. And I'm just like
that.
wait,
that's... Unless that was meant to try to explain it, kind of deal.
It's a little late to try to explain it.
Yeah.
To be honest. That means that other time travel shenanigans have happened.
Just not been there.
Yeah. Anywho, the photo. That's the photo. We're moving past the photo.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That is like the one question there, I guess, is the best way.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they tied every other loop up to where it was a case of this was set up so that the events of the movie could happen. That's the only one that it's like, little better explanation, please.
Yeah. So, back with the movie, we check in with the Alliance as we see a bunch more random people who are psychics are gathered together to power up the Saber so it can be used with a laser weapon to destroy Yuki's ship because Bamba needs to try to sell this weapon that he's giving to someone from 5 years in the past, so he kind of can't have it. Wait a minute. What do you mean you're showing it? Who are you showing this off to? No one's gonna buy it. It's already bought. You already been paid for it.
You know, I feel like that part of the plot would have been better the opposite way.
Probably.
Because if it was something that happened in the past and they were coming back to get it, then it would be a case of they would know due to history changing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, I would think shooting a return pod out of the sky probably would prompt someone to note that somewhere.
Yeah. It's once more one of those cases of like, okay, the 5-year time skip is completely unnecessary in this fucking movie. We should not have had it to start with. Fuck's sakes. But I guess we need it because of something that happens later. Because otherwise, we have no team up.
Yeah.
Anyway, L now arrives from the past as he meets up with Bamba to give him the money for the Saber. So there's that. This is when we check in with the club that they've all met up together. And I guess some back room at the school because, you know, they don't have the hutch anymore, so... Or this is like the new room for the club, I guess, because they got the posters from Mega Max put up.
Yeah, I'd say
in the background.
Is new club room.
Mm-hmm. Also, no Ran or Haru, even though they were the first new members of the club. They're not here. I guess they were busy.
That, or they didn't have to deal with as much crap, so they weren't as important.
I guess. It feels weird that Ran and Haru are not here, a part of the original club, when they were kind of a part of the original club.
Yeah.
Not just a part of the original club, also a part of the original space version of the club, since they keep saying that they're just Space Kamen Rider Club instead of just the regular Kamen Rider Club.
True.
So this is when we get filled in on who Bamba was and saying, oh, he was a former researcher with Gamao who was researching space magic and whatnot. And his club is here, or his headquarters is here. So that's when the club heads out. Only for Uki to be sidelined because, nope, this is veteran mission only. You don't get a fight scene. It's okay.
I do also like the fact that they basically tied the fact that Banba has a switch to a case of there are potentially more switches out there from Gamo. So it's like, okay, that makes sense.
It's just like how there's more guy memories out there. It's just like, yeah, just because museum collapsed doesn't mean that there aren't just remnants. Someone didn't go poking around one of their facilities being like, ooh, shiny, I wonder what this does.
Or that there wasn't still some in activity kind of deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those nice touches.
Mm-hmm. Yuki also calls in real quick for one of the few lines she gets in this movie. Yuki just gets nothing in this movie.
Yeah, she gets
I feel bad for her. Yeah. But she says, I'll be fine. Totally not telling them, by the way, I got Nadeshiko here to protect me. It's okay. I feel like she should have told them that.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm. So this is when we cut back to the Alliance's headquarters, where we see the Saber is powered up, and Bomba tries to get our 4 main kids to put on the patches we saw from the goons in South Africa. These are these little square slap patch things, whatever you want to call it. Band-aids, essentially. They're Band-aids.
They're special Band-aids.
Yeah, they're special power-up Band-aids. They totally won't brainwash you. But this is when the club arrives all dramatically, with Kingo and Miyu, I believe, with the guns from space-time as well, because fuck it, if we're going to keep referencing all of Fourze's material, here's your guns. Here's your Nerf guns.
Although, to be fair, that's a nice touch that they're actually referencing the movie too, because we don't really get that a whole lot.
I have a thought about how this movie is, but we'll get to it towards the end. Because it kind of rolls back to, weirdly enough, everything we've covered so far. And I do mean everything. But yeah, the club arrives and they tell the kids, by the way, those Band-Aids will brainwash you, and here's the proof. And Inga calls in one more time for her last appearance of the movie, practically to be like, hey, this is what's going to happen to you if you keep following this guy. Stop following him, please.
This guy is not good.
So this is when the 3 kids besides Saburo throw them away as Gentro and Ryusei transform to fight Bomba. And Bomba goes to Zodiac form and can summon Dustards because we need goons so he can just summon them even though he's not a horoscope. Don't worry about it.
You know, I wasn't actually thinking about that.
Yeah, the first time we had horoscopes was because of first time we had Dustards was because of horoscopes.
Yeah.
Those regular Zodiac could summon them. But anywho, this is when everybody gets to have a fight scene with the Dustards. So Nezumi and Kong team up with Jake and Tomoko to fight off some. Ruby and Miyu get to team up and fight off some with all sorts of psychic powers and gunshots. Jun's still got the Paradise, so he gets to dunk some Dustards in the ground. And then Kengo not only has a gun, but he also learned to fight with a flag at some point, because he fights off a bunch of Dustards with his gun in the Kamen Rider Club flag. Like, this is the most action Kengo's ever gotten.
Yeah.
I guess becoming human meant, oh, I can fight now. Meteor is the one taking care of Bomba, and he goes Meteor Storm to try to fight him, but unfortunately Meteor Storm is not enough because Meteor is in desperate need of an upgrade because he's kind of outpowered for practically the entire movie. Okay. This is when Saburo transforms again, and him and Gentro fight it out, because even if all of this was a deception, This is still a personal fight for Saburo, so he needs to fight Gentro. So the two of them fight. With Saburo also having the Zavar at this point. And after he pushes back Gentro, Oki ends up knocking the Zaver out of his hands and taking it, saying that he's a monster once more and he needs to be stopped. And this is where Gentro is like, okay, you need to chill out. You need to wake the fuck up. You're both getting the lesson now. So, in his base form, he practically throws the fight with Saburo now to prove to Yuki, it's just like, look, he's hurting. He needs help. He needs a friend. Wake up. Not everyone is a monster. So this finally gets Oki to realize, oh shit, I've been an asshole this whole movie so far. And she eventually apologizes. But this is when Bamba and Ryu arrive from their fight. And Bamba just takes Oki in the Zaver and runs. With Ryu say in tow. And now Gentro is telling Saburo, hey, time to hero up. But Saburo can't. And so Gentro decides, okay, well, if you're not going to hero up, since apparently only riders are needed now, he decides to undo his transformation. And with Kingo's permission, mind you, with his express permission, he tosses the Fourze driver into a pit of lava in this junkyard car shop area that's just nearby. Meaning Gentro has lost his ability to transform into Fourze. And also lost 4 of his switches in the process because they were in the driver. So there's that as well. Checking in with with the fight with Bamba, Oki's tossed aside as Bamba decides to test fire his weapon with the Zaver, so he gets that set up. Only for Saburo to arrive, his shell of a transformation kind of burning and cracking as he undergoes his second transformation into a Nazaman. Again, another Shotaro Ishimori property. This is why I kept referencing a Nazaman, because all 3 of his friends are references to characters from a Nazaman. Oki's a reference to a Nazaman. Saburo himself is a Nazaman himself, just a new version of him. So, and this is where he fights it out with Bamba, with Gentro telling Ryu, say, hey, kid's got it. Take 5 on this one. And he goes to town, popping all of what I assume is a Nazaman's special attacks and whatnot, since, well, this is kind of his debut. And he gets one more appearance in Zed, popping in from 5 years in the future to help Gentro randomly. Don't worry about it. I forgot about that part until just now. I'm just like, right, he appears again in Zed, just popping in from the future. But he goes to town on him and takes out the Zodiart, meaning Bomba's done for the movie. Ryusei destroys the switch and arrests Bamba. And Saburo returns to his human form, but unfortunately his transformations kind of destroy all his clothing. So he's butt-ass naked. So Kengo has to cover him up with the flag. And this is when we see Yuki's vessel returned from orbit. Only for L to arrive from the past. And he uses the Zavar to destroy it. Oh no! Except we see a ball of light pop out from the explosion, revealing not only Yuki's okay, but Nadeshiko's back. She takes out the weapon with a rider kick. And seemingly L as well. Spoilers, he's not dead. Because of course he's not. So Gentro and Nadeshiko catch up, and Saburo and Oki do the handshake as they are just like, wait, he's friends with an alien? Too? It's just like, yeah. Kengo's just like, yep, that's Gentro. That's our lives. Welcome to the club. Unfortunately, L pops back up, takes the saber, and heads back through his portal through to the past, with Gintro, Ryusei, and Nadeshiko following after him, and Kingo tossing in one of the nugget droids to give them the location of the headquarters in the past, because as we see from their perspective, they get dropped off on that little road path near the school that we see the students go on a lot of times, because they see a younger version of Gintro, Yuki, and Kingo nearby. And this prompts Gintro to tackle his younger self. He loses the picture at this point, and this is where past Gintro, I assume, picks it up, or whatever. The photo is nonsense. We're moving on. I'm not going to try to worry about that photo again. And he asks his younger self to borrow the Fourze driver, which, of course, his younger self agrees with, because of course he does. Of course, his older self just shows up and just like, hey, can I borrow the driver? And he's just like, fucking cool. There you go. Don't tell Kingo. So yeah, that is not only the prologue, but the Fourze portion of this, and I would pause here real quick to get thoughts on this portion before we move on to the wizard portion, to at least give us a small break, but Tommy's currently away at the moment. So how y'all doing? Guess I could give my thoughts on this, but I feel like this Fourze portion of the movie, I don't mind the 5 years later to show where everybody went and how much they've grown in their progress. But I don't feel like it being this 5 years later thing is just like, it like complicates like a timeline that is spoilers, because Heisei Generation's final kind of didn't abide by the timeline of this movie, since it is timestamped, I think, to be like September or something. Final kind of technically happens after this, but they've retconned it to be that it happens before this, because oops, we fucked up the timeline, even though we knew about this for 5 years, knew about this for several years. So yeah. Yeah, this it's weird that I'm like, I like all the material in here. I wish this wasn't attached to a crossover and complicating the crossover. I wish this was more of just a standalone, like, Fourze V cinema of introducing a new hero, essentially. Which is one of those weird things where I'm like, this feels like this should have been a V cinema. And this is what I feel like the V cinema should be, in a sense. Instead of weirdly enough, trying to explain things and do things that they didn't get to do in series, just tell these one-off self-contained stories that can be done and can be here and done in an hour or so. Granted, I think this runtime is like a half hour-ish. Let me see, actually, how long the Fourze portion of this is. Oops, that's not the right movie. That's the right movie. That's Full Throttle. So that is... End of title card is 343... And the Fourze portion is... $45 and change, so like 40-ish minutes, like 42 minutes. Like, stretch it out a little bit, actually give Yuki something to like do, maybe show Nadesco's return and maybe make that consistent, considering what her story is and how she leaves. It's just two different things. Yeah, I just it's a thing I have complicated feelings on. Granted, I have complicated feelings about the Wizard one now. Now, after watching all of Wizard and kind of coming back to this being the first real Wizard thing I've touched in years, I have a complicated feelings about the Wizard one where I'm like, I kind of like this more when it comes to the Underworld stuff, weirdly enough. But it might, I don't know, it might complicate the storytelling and the writing of each episode. So maybe it was better for a movie. Especially considering they don't really use it that much. They only use it for like half of the Wizard portion before they kind of drop it. I want to move on. I want to be here before we move on. Since we're at kind of a break point. Yeah. Also, funny enough, we don't have any like new form stuff to talk about because before this. Actually, now that I think about it, there's actually no new forms until like the end of the movie. They don't get introduced until then. I just see on Twitter this fan-made Movie War 2001 with Kuga and Akito. I am honestly surprised between all of this ancillary media that we've gotten over the years, especially with like all the novels and stuff, that they haven't tried at least once to do some type of one-off story with the Kuga and Agito team up. Like, I know, like, show, movie, V cinema, all that wise, that can't happen because Odagiri is probably never coming back to the franchise because of his feelings about the franchise. But, like, still, I would think it would be possible, and, like, especially since we have, like, that ongoing Kuga manga, and, like, I believe Ann Agito has shown up in that. I forget which one. I think it's the sister Agito that we saw from the end of the series, or from like the backstory of Agito showing up in the manga. A Agito has shown up, although not in a team up fashion, which makes me go, so are you going to do a Kuga Agito team up in this? I was surprised like they didn't try to do that for a novel. Granted, my pitch for a manga series has always been to do Kamen Rider Spirits, except do it for Decade. Give him the Spirits treatment, that way he gets an actual proper like crossover series with his like previous series, with the previous shows, and do it in the styles of Spirits, where it's just, hey, the first few chapters are just catching up with these various characters, like post their series. So like the Kuga one, if you want to work in the novel, like, canonicity, like, is Kuga, I guess, or is Godai, I guess, teaching the Proto Kuga how to control her powers, and more or less trying to learn. It's like, okay, how do I do this with a partner? And then like Agito is him, I guess, just being a chef and catching up with the other two writers. Maybe, I don't know if you would worry about all the secondary writers and stuff. I guess you'd maybe curate those a little bit, especially when you get to Ryuki and stuff. Down to like the important few, unless you wanted to spotlight some of them. Especially since Ryuki has like the time reset, meaning Ryuki's powers aren't involved anymore. And maybe trying to figure out a workaround to that. Maybe involve main villains, I don't know. There's a story to tell there. I feel like. And maybe someone's done it already. I would kind of like to know. If anyone knows that, toss that into the Discord somewhere, and I will gladly give it a read. But I feel like I'm not the only one who's had the idea of just like, okay, how about Decade go and meet post-series each of the writers and have an adventure of sorts that builds to, like, dealing with not Die Shocker, please. Or maybe a proper new version of Shocker that isn't just old Shocker with a new name. I might just keep rolling with a recap for now and catch Tommy's opinions on the Fourze stuff when he gets back. Let me take a drink real quick. Because we got plenty more to talk about. So we're going to head into the wizard portion of this. So we're back in the present. Back at the headquarters for the Alchemizers. Haruto, Koyomi, Shuppei, and Rinko are here. Haruto's filling up on donuts real quick. Because he's going to be in for a long day. A very, very long day. Because they have tracked the gates, which the 4 kids and the person in the middle are all gates. To here. So I guess those psychic powers are magic, I guess. That, I'm not sure how to feel. Moving on. That is a can of worms that I don't want to think about. So, anywho, they're confronted by a horde of monsters, so Haruto transforms and proceeds to fight them off. I believe Magicus Showtime is playing for this entire fight scene, which is pretty cool that we get the main theme for this. He proceeds to fight them off, and Rinko also gets to fight off some of the gremlin, or not gremlin, I believe the Masquerade and Yummy Dopants with nothing but her revolver. With its 6 shots that they actually show her reloading with. I'm just like, Rinko, they really need to give you a bigger gun. It's Kiriko all over again, where I'm just like, can we give her a proper gun? Can she just get a smaller version of Wizard's gun? So to utilize, kind of like how Shroud has a smaller version of the Trigger Magnum that she utilized. Yeah, so while 2 of them are that, Shuppei and Koyomi kind of just to dodge their way through theirs, until Haruto finally clears a path with a combination of form changes and abilities. And this is when they confront the Alchemizers. Back up. The Alchemizers in Medusa and Phoenix see this, but the Alchemizers are unfazed, as the Underworld will apparently give them plenty of time to accomplish their plans. And this is when also when L arrives with the Xaver, as Haruto and crew now make their entrance into the headquarters. Our villains make their introductions. They try to invite Haruto in since he's a monster and casted off from society, even though that's not a thing. Why we keep trying to bring that as a thing in Writer when that's never a thing. That's never a thing until someone actually does it well. That's an undercurrent of a thing in Gaim, but it's only in the late show after they've worked at it, after they've been chipping away at it for several dozen episodes. But that's not a thing here. Haruto's he's just some guy for most part. Anyway, after he declines, three of them fight Haruto, and unfortunately, he is quite outnumbered, and it ends up taking their triple finisher directly to the chest, which puts him out of commission for a hot minute. Unfortunately, Haruto has a bad habit of not remembering he has a shield button or a shield ring that he should use more often. I think that's a pretty big joke you could make throughout the entirety of Wizard. Anyway, the three of them use this opportunity to head into the underworld itself, leaving Phoenix and Medusa to deal with Haruto and crew. And they decide, nah, we don't want to, because fuck those assholes. Have fun. By the way, if you wake up the main one, the person in the middle, it'll like free everybody. So go do that. Bye. We're done for the movie. So Haruto uses his engage ring on the main person in the middle to enter the underworld, but a pair of monsters popping out of a portal give Rinko and Shinpei a scare, and they trip into the engage portal as well, meaning they get tossed into the underworld, leaving Koyomi alone on the outside for all of like 5 seconds, I believe, is the actual like time scale on this, because once we get into the underworld, we're kind of in a very slow down time period. Don't worry about it. Inside, Haruto is back at the antique shop from the show, as he sees not Koyomi and not Wajima are prepping for Poitrine's party. Haruto is, of course, confused by all this because he's like, what the fuck's happening? I don't know what's happening, but he sees in the crystal ball that a bunch of kids are being attacked by goons, so he heads off to go fight them. Meanwhile, we see Rinko and Shinpei also wake up to strange encounters. Rinko wakes up to the chief of police, also commenting on it being Poitrine's birthday, and then not owner of the donut shop that I think it only works at the shop in this one movie. Like, I think someone else works at the donut shop with owner, but it's not him. I think it's somebody else. I don't remember. It might be him. I might be crazy and think it's somebody else, and it's not. Either case, it's only the this guy. Don't mind me. I'm skimming through songs on my iTunes playlist at the moment. But it's not owner, it's just some worker at the donut shop. And Shinpei even asks, it's like, where's owner? And the guy has no mention of it, and it's just once more Poitrine's birthday. So after Shinpei fills up the donuts, he runs into Rinko. I was about to say Kiriko, and I'm like, no, Rinko, right, wrong person. This is not the only female character we've had that works with the police force in recent years. Right, we've had 2 of them. But they run into each other and eventually see Haruto drive by in his rider form, and they go off to help. They arrive. Haruto fights off the goons for a little bit while the Rinko and Shinpei try to escort the kids away. But the kids seem to be aware that they are in the underworld, in this person's underworld, but Rinko and Shinpei aren't. So the kids are just like, well, they're useless. Goodbye. And they're done for a little bit. And as we see Haruto fight them off, a girl named Kamimaru shows up, tells the monsters to stop. They all stop. And she does her quick introduction and transformation into Poitrine, which is yet another Shotaro Ishinomori series. And I think it also a live-action series. Granted, Inazuman and Akamizers were also live-action series, because we've also seen the original Inazuman suit. If you remember when we did Ozdeno, the original Inazuman suit, at least, showed up for that movie for a quick cameo for some reason. I don't know why. I'm still confused about those. But she transforms into Poitrine, which wakes up the crowd that has been nearby for this fight scene. and they start cheering and stuff as she proceeds to fight off the monsters in a magic showy fashion. And after blowing up most of the monsters, 2 of them get away. Haruto tries to give chase, but Georgine says, don't worry about them. They disappear through a portal, which is totally not a portal to the outside, but she doesn't know that, kind of. This is when Haruto invites Portrine to the antique shop for the party, and they celebrate as we fade to white, and then it's the next day? Or maybe not, as Haruto wakes up. Haruto wakes up and kind of does the scene over again, only he's just like, wait a minute, that was yesterday, right? And the 2 of them try to confront him, and it's like, no, it's not. And he's just like, right, no, that's today. It's today, again. I'm in a time loop. Shit. So at this point, as Haruto is riding off, he realizes that, yeah, right, we're in the underworld. And he finds Rinko and Shinpei are being chased by the people they wake up to from earlier, chasing them because they're like, "What? No, it's tomorrow. It's what's happening?" And then, as the 2 of them try to menacingly gnar at them, Haruto hops in real quick, does some fancy flips and stuff to get the sleep rings on them to put them to sleep. So the 3 of them try to figure things out, but we check in with the Alchemizers real quick as they're at their truck base Predacon thing. We'll get to it later. Zaten tasks Gara with making sure that Yu doesn't wake up, because if they wake up, they lose their infinite monster machine and their bigger plans attached to it. This is when we cut back to Haruto and the others as they try to figure out what's going on. Since this underworld is kind of unnatural, it's something Haruto's not even dealt with before. But they also realize, oh shit, the kids are the gates, and so is Yu. We need to go save them real quick. So they go and help again. Haruto demolishes all the goons this time using Hurricane Dragon. And I believe Flame Dragon as well. Before Portrine arrives, while Rinko and Shinpei talk to the kids and be like, yo, no, we remember, we're right, we're in the underworld. Sorry. We're sorry. We need to figure out what the hell's going on. This is when Yu arrives to no monsters, as Haruto tries to get her to come back to the real world and realize, hey, this is all more or less a fantasy. You need to come back to reality. But as we find out, she doesn't want to leave, even though she knows what's going on. And that's because she's kind of under a spell put on her by Zaten, as Gara arrives to tell Haruto this. And from the prompt of Gara, she tries to pull Haruto deeper into the spell and dumps them both at a wedding scene where they're going to get married. And Haruto quickly snips out of this. So the 2 of them have a quick little fight scene, which is more or less just them chasing each other around the stands and stuff until everyone else arrives. Once they do, they try to fight off Gara, but he ends up pushing everybody around, which pushing around the kids who tried to pull you out of it earlier finally gets her to break the brainwashing herself. So her and Haruto are now going to work together, and they transform, and they tag team Gara and pretty much force him to go giant chicken mode. So Haruto has to bring out Dragon to deep fry the chicken real quick. Cute little fight scene with the 2 of them teaming up, using their powers together. It makes me really wish that kind of a missed opportunity of Wizard is that I can't think of her name at the moment. The female mage. Shit, what was her name? Medusa's sister. Fuck, I can't think of her name. But she got like upgraded into a proper rider form, and she teamed up with Haruto. Because like I like this cute little tag teaming of powers and stuff that Haruko gets to do in this movie, and I don't think he really gets to do that in the series at all. Even though he had like 4 other people to do it with by the end of the show, and he didn't get to really do it with anybody. So yeah. But they end up in the junkyard, and Patrine's ready to return, only for the rest of the Akamizers to arrive. And once more, Haruto jobs out to their triple team attack, their triple team finisher. Because he, instead of taking it on the chest, he tries to rider kick to counter it, and it fails, so he takes it again. And this gives them the opportunity to capture Patrine and leave with a horde of goons surrounding Haruto for him to have to fight off. And that is... Once more, I'm trying to find a good song on my iTunes real quick. That's once more the other portion of the movie. That's the wizard portion of the movie, and I really like this, and it makes me wish, as we'll find out, that Portrine's not a thing that can really be done in series. But I'm like, I kind of like Portrine. I like who's playing Portrine. She has really good chemistry with Haruto, and she seems really good. And I'm kind of like, I wish you were here more. I wish you could like show up outside of this movie. I'm actually curious who her actress is, if she showed up in anything else. Nothing I recognize. No, nothing I recognize. I was worried for a second Discord broke. And I was just talking to myself for this entire time. But no, Discord thankfully hasn't broken yet. Now when I jinx it, it's gonna fucking break now. Yeah, I like it. I like this interaction between Portrine and Haruto. It's a really nice dynamic. And I wish it'd happen more than this movie. And I also kind of wish the Underworlds worked like this, or I don't know. I wish the Phantom stuff worked like this in a sense. Kind of. Because, like, the whole despair thing in Wizard, kind of in hindsight looking back to it, kind of got trivial after a while. It felt like, these aren't as big of a deal as they should have been for the person that's going through this despair to have the monster pop out of them. But I kind of wish it was more like this, more like the person making a deal with the Phantom within them to get what they want, kind of drawing them into the underworld to get like their perfect happy, like their perfect world. But in exchange, they took over their body and became real, more or less swapping places. Like, I kind of wish that was the thing, and that was how the Phantoms operated in Wizard. And, like, the more they did it, the more they got trapped in the underworld, and eventually it just outright killed the person, and the Phantom completely took over. Because, like, I liked that aspect of just, like, these like, yeah, they're just wearing a human skin, like a human costume, essentially, made of the real person. Once they fully taken over, and I kind of like that more. And I kind of like Haruto having to dive into the underworld, seeing their perfect world, and having to bring that person out, and like try to talk them through it. But that kind of complicates the writing in a sense, because like instead of every episode ending with like the big dragon v like monster scene, you kind of have to maybe end it with Haruto talking them out of it, and that's a lot of dialogue and stuff to write, and that's a lot of things to shoot at the end of the episode for what is going to be like 5-minute conversation at the minimum, or less even. So it's just like it's a complicated idea that would really benefit more from being spread out over a couple episodes, which sometimes for me makes me feel like I kind of miss 2-parters, because it felt like we saved the budget on the monsters because we didn't have to have a monster every week. We had a monster every 2 weeks. But you gotta get a trade-off for going, okay, this monster cannot die this week. No matter what we do, we have to let him get away. But yeah, there's like trade-offs all around on that. Well, like, it made me give that idea, and granted, it might have also been born of the idea I had for a post-wizard story of Haruto getting whammied in some way, and then Dragon, like, having to take over his body to be wizard for a hot minute to like give Dragon more characterization, and not in any like malicious way. It's more like Haruto's somehow unconscious and I'm in the driver's seat for some reason. We might want to blow up this monster and reverse this. We might want to fix this because I kind of don't like this, because I've kind of grown attached to this kid. I kind of like him. But I'm not going to outright say that because I'm that kind of character. But yeah, that's the wizard portion. I guess I'm going to recap the entire movie before Tommy gets to come back. Damn. It's gonna be sad because I really want his thoughts on the two new form changes we get at the end of this movie, and some stuff in the middle here. But I guess I'll keep rolling on, because now we're in the proper movie Tyson Ultimatum version or portion of this movie. So we check him back in reality, more or less not long after we left, as Gintro and the others arrive and dispatch the monsters that showed up real quick to save Kiyomi from the save Kiyomi. Meanwhile, and I guess along with Gintro and them explaining this to Kiyomi, we find out that the Alchemizer's plan is to drop the Xaver into the pool of mana that has been created because of this like joint 5-person underworld. And the feedback of that happening would cause a massive explosion of magic that would kill anybody with no resistance to magic. So everyone with magic in some capacity would be safe, but would be able to resist it and be safe from it, but everyone else would be dead. So more or less, Wise Man wants to clean the slate and just be like, all right, everyone who's still kicking is a gate, and all I have to do is make them all turn into phantoms so I can get what I want eventually. Which I don't think lines up with his plans in the show at all, but whatever. So Fourze and crew make some quick introductions to Kiyomi before Fourze pulls out a Fourze-shaped engage ring and puts it on the person in the center and has her press the cosmic switch, which apparently activates the engage ring. So him, Ryusei, and Nadeshiko can head in. They arrive just in time to save Haruto from the Horde, And then the four of them proceed to fight off the horde in individual fight scenes, which I have to make the note here of Degashko only really has the rocket module. Meteor at least has Meteor Storm, and Gentaro has like all the switches on him. And I just feel like throughout this entire movie, anytime Degashko has to fight anyone, of just like, damn it, Gentaro, toss her one of your circle switches or one of your square switches, because her driver has the slots for those. What the fuck? Help her out, please. She needs it. She needs something to help her fight, because she's not got a lot of her in her arsenal besides punch, kicks, and jamming her rocket into people's guts for them to explode. But anyway, they take out the horde, and they make some quick introductions. Gentaro, even noting earlier, because he entered into the scene in rocket states of, it's like, we're here to help because we're riders, and because you helped me out last time, and we're buds. And Haruto does the handshake, and he kind of does it differently because he has the ring on his hand, so he has to do the fist bump different, all the fist bump stuff differently. It's kind of cute. He gets his own version. But Rinko, Shinpei, and the kids arrive, and the kids are happy to see more riders, and we get a little nice little happy scene. Before we come back to the Alchemizers as they take you into their truck, try to keep her contained, because once we cut to our four riders arriving on this road, untransformed, mind you, we see that a bunch of monsters from the past past 3 seasons are hitching a ride on there. And they'll need to fight them off to get to the truck. Inside, and this is kind of later as I realized, but it's better just to note it here. Inside, Yu tries to leave, but she's informed that doing so would kill everybody who's real in her underworld, so she's more or less stuck on the sidelines watching for now. So at this point, our 4 riders, untransformed, fight off a bunch of goons in individual fight scenes, all nice little fight scenes that fit each other. Ryusei does his usual martial arts stuff. Gentaro delivers some headbutts. Haruto does his usual flips and shit. Nadeshiko just decks people left and right. And what is her first real time getting to fight untransformed? But unfortunately, it's not enough, as back in reality, we see more goons arrive to threaten Koyomi. But a kind hermit kindly asks her to hold his hanger of his underwear real quick. And this is when we see Edgy proceeds to take out these goons because he's here to help, because riders help each other out. And presumably, even though we don't see it on screen, but because of a next scene, Goto, Terugi, Shotaro, and Philip are with him, and they are just outside, I guess, cleaning up whatever, and Edgy was the first one to make it in. At least that's my headcanon. Because we cut inside to the underworld as the astral ghost versions of these 5 characters. They are all shown from the back, and we only see their hands to hand off a series of rider rings for their respective rider, or for their respective riders, to the 4 kids. And Edgy's the only one to be seen from the front, as he tells the kids to go high five somebody with them. So taking this hint, Saburo, who I believe is called out by name at this point, and I think he gets called out by name later. I might be wrong. But the 4 of them go to Haruto, and they scan the rings on the belt, and they summon Double Axel, O's, and Birth into the underworld. And we'll get to complicated things about them later. Because we gotta get through this first. So this is when the 4 riders quickly mop up stragglers. We actually see Cyclone put into the maximum drive slot, which is something we never got to see in the series. We only got to see the Shotaro halves. Shotaro halves of the memories get slotted into anything, really. But they mock up all the trackers, which lets our other 4 transform into a scene that feels like an alternate version of the intro scene from earlier when they were standing in front of the truck before. Because Gentro's like, "You're going, Wizard?" And I'm like, you're going, Haruto? And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going." And before, they had the whole thing where Gentro talks to him about Portrine, and he's just like, "I like Portrine. She's a good girl. I like her." So they transform, and with the help of Connect, they all summon their bikes, except Nadeshiko, who doesn't have a bike. So she just catches a ride on Terry, who's in bike form, and they ride off chasing after the truck. So now we have a big old of 8 riders versus 1 truck with 3 guys on it scene as our riders kind of weave in and out of explosions. Several of them try to hop on. Terry hops on the front and Double goes heat trigger to blow up, I want to say it's the Violence Dopont from the Fang Joker debut. And Goto Birth blows up the hair Zodiart, and Nadeshiko, I think, takes out one of the guys on top of the gun. But this is when we have some interesting transformations, because we see Double transform directly into Fang Joker, which is impossible. And we also see Edgy transform into Burakawani, which we never saw him use the medals for in series, outside of one flashback that does not involve him using those medals. And we also see him turn into Putrotera, which he does not have, as this is post-series Edgy, who does not have any version of the Putrotera medals because they all got blown up in making the black hole at the end of the series. So he doesn't have those. And that is kept in canon because he also doesn't use his use any version of Putrotera medals at all in Haze of Generations Final. Or is it? Is it Final? Am I thinking of Final? Yeah, I'm thinking of Final. Yeah, it's Haze of Generations Final. Although he uses the Foundation X medals there instead of his proper medals, even though he should have the proper medals. That's a nitpick for another day. So yeah, he should not have any purple core medals on him, yet he has Putrotera medals. But a combination of all this buys Gentro and Haruto a chance to use Haruto's fall ring to hop into the truck itself. So this is where I would try to have a conversation about these fucking 4 riders and what the fuck they are. Okay, Tommy's back.
Okay.
Hello, I'm into the truck portion of the movie Tyson Ultimatum.
Oh, that part. Oh boy.
Okay. I paused for a little bit because I wasn't sure how long you were going to be gone after the Fourze portion, because I wanted your thoughts on just that portion. And then I paused a little bit after the end of the Wizard portion because I wanted your thoughts on just the Wizard portion. So I guess we can do those before because I was going to talk about the reform nonsense things. But we can talk about their stuff first.
Is it kind of bad that I felt like I liked both of the solo sections because, each one kind of had its own secluded story kind of deal that doesn't have the time travel shenanigans? Yeah.
I kind of wish the Fourze portion was just a V cinema. That was just off on its own. So we didn't have to worry about this trying to come back from the 5 years and whatnot and all that. I just wish it was his own V cinema introducing Inazuman into the wider franchise as a character to use later, except no one ever uses him besides one person who remembered him in Zed, and he popped in real quick in Zed. And I forgot about it until I remembered.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. The issue I have with that, though, is if you did that, how would you tie it back to where you could have a dual story? Because I feel like the 5-year jump kind of... I mean, it doesn't do a super good job, but it kind of gets an idea of, okay, maybe the rest of the club is in these positions.
Yeah.
And it's...
I don't know.
It's one of those, I'm like... If you don't do the time jump, then they couldn't be doing those things. And you could have a crossover easy, but if you want them to actually be in those professions, then it's one of those you got to do some kind of a time jump, which gets back to it makes it hard to do a crossover.
It's more or less if you want this to be in the present, you have to get a brand new Fourze story.
Yeah.
More or less. And it's just like, okay, what do you do now? Do you show everybody in progress? And how interesting is that?
Maybe the alternative to that would have been take the end of series club and maybe introduce these 4 characters, or even just one kind of deal, since only one's really important, as maybe classmates that have these powers kind of deal. That way maybe you could kind of still utilize the same kind of story, but more do it in a present day sense. But then the problem comes into, you can't tie the wizard portion with the way it's wrote into that because of the dumb thing that they decided to do. So
also, how do you like Anazaman, like design and character wise? Since this is the first time you got to see an old version of the character and the new reboot version of the character. Because the old Anazaman was in O's Deno in that quick cameo scene of, here's 4 characters who are completely unrelated to Ryder showing up for like no reason.
I mean, I kind of like the design. I feel like ultimately the design doesn't necessarily sell the character. It's more the journey to the character's development kind of deal.
Yeah. I kind of wish we used him more, but nobody's used him. Except the one time.
The only other thing, and I understand why they can't, is it would have been nice if we could have used him at the end of the movie to kind of help tie it together, but I understand why we can't.
Because unless we're teaming up with Portrain, it's pointless. Because like both portions are about like the birth of an old Ishinomori hero or being reborn into a new era. And unless they're teaming up and fighting, we lose the point. And Portrain's sidelined for the entire 3rd act of this, so...
Yeah. I mean, technically they both are.
Well, yeah. I meant actively so in the story of events, more so than just, oh, he got left behind.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel about the wizard portion? And any specific things you wanted to call out during that?
I kind of felt like it was one of those what I would expect out of the wizard portion kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Not really anything that would feel out of character for the show kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I have to think that a lot of that mainly comes down to, you know, we are dealing with magic. Sometimes you just have to accept it and go.
Yeah. I talked about how I wish the underworlds were kind of like this, and you kind of had the idea of the Phantom, like, pulling the human into the underworld and to give them their perfect happy ending, to more or less trade places with them.
That would be kind of a nice idea.
Yeah, the problem is you lose the big monster fights with Dragon at the end of the episode, kind of, or you have to do all of the character resolution in like the last 5 minutes of whatever 1 or 2 episodes we're dealing with that character, as Haruto has to pull him out, and you have to have the conflict there, and that's a lot of screen time to eat up, and maybe not a lot of time to do it. So you kind of complicate things that way.
Yes and no. I mean, from what I remember, Wizard had that whole chunk of filler, so maybe if they did that, they could have changed some things around with the overall plot kind of deal.
Yeah. And maybe also think of an idea I had of just like, okay, what if we had a moment where Haruto and Dragon swapped places and Dragon was in the driver's seat? Not in any malicious form, but just he ends up there, and so we kind of get introduced to Dragon as a character, because we only get him as a character for like a couple episodes. And I thought that'd be a neat idea to do that and maybe get more kind of like background stuff on Phantoms and whatnot.
That would be kind of neat.
Because like it doesn't have to be like, he's trying to take over. It's more like just, oh no, Haruto got whammied, and all of a sudden Dragon's in the driver's seat, and it's just like, oh, we have to deal with this person who's not Haruto in any way, shape, or form, really, for just 2 episodes until Haruto's back. But you get some nice character and a bit of world building. Anywho, I also mentioned that I really like Poitrine. I liked her chemistry with Haruto. I wish we got to use her after this movie, but because of events we don't get to.
Yeah.
Unless we go a long way around to get her back.
I mean, it could have been possible.
Yeah, but we have to do the fake out, and I'm just like, aww. But anyway, anything before all of the truck stuff from the Ultimatum portion of the movie you want to talk about real quick?
I mean, the one thing we did kind of mention was, you know, Wise Man kind of shooting his own foot.
Yeah, I feel like that's against his plans.
Yeah, because we're gonna kill everyone that we don't need, so then there's no reason to need the people that we need. It's one of those. You didn't think that through, did you?
No. Okay, so the random form changes that shouldn't exist and can exist, and that's not how that works. Kind of in that order. With Burakawani, Pututera, and Fang Joker. I have an explanation for this. And this is just assuming something about how the Rider Rings work.
Okay.
It doesn't actually summon them. It just summons the spirit of them. So they get all their stuff without the necessary complications of it being actually them.
The only issue still falls under the whole Fang Joker, even with that concept. Because it is clearly Shotaro in the driver's seat for Double.
Until it's Fang Joker and then it's clearly Philip.
That's still debatable.
Yeah.
Because granted, it is growls that is all you hear out of the Fang Joker. But it sounded closer to Shotaro than to Philip. So Oops.
Yeah, I just that was my only.
That one I'm feeling like was a pure we screwed up, but this made it to production and no one realized it till then kind of deal.
Yeah, and also I feel like that's a Sakamoto of I want the toys. Logic be damned. Which is not his usual modus operandi, but considering again how I kind of feel like big picture this movie is, we'll get to that at the end. I feel like it's something he wanted to do, he needed to do, but this was probably his last opportunity to really do so.
I feel like what I probably could have accepted for Fang Joker to be there would have been maybe if we saw a glimpse of Extreme first, and then we kind of cut to Fang Joker.
Yeah.
Because then that would explain how the swap happened. And then at that point, we could still have ended the way we did.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, Base Extreme never appeared, did it?
Nope. It was straight to Gold Extreme off screen.
So that could have been the use another toy to explain the toy that was already used kind of deal.
Pretty much.
As far as O's goes, I'm willing to just be at the, depending on where we actually want this to physically take place, because bear in mind the way this movie also shows, you know, it takes place between 13 and 14 of Wizard. Except this also takes the past part of it also takes place somewhere within Fourze.
I think it's that. Okay, they mentioned the Amazon trip, so it's at least after the Amazon trip, which is late into the show, so after the 30s at a minimum.
So then that would explain most of those, then.
Yes.
So then, in that aspect, I would come closer to believing your idea of it, where it's more the spirit and any of the toys accessible to it can be there.
Yeah. That would explain Putoterra.
Did we see Trial?
Yes. Yes, Terry transforms into Trial to do the rider kick to stop the truck.
At the very end?
Yes.
Okay.
He goes from Booster into Trial in midair for some stupid reason. I don't know why. I don't know why he just stayed in Trial. Or stayed in Booster.
I mean, gotta have all the forms.
Apparently, because he's doing the multiple kicks, and I'm just like, Terry, you're making one kick here. Why are you still in Trial? Or why did you go into Trial for this? Why are you not in Booster? What's happening? I guess he needed to be Booster to fly Meteor and Nadeshko to there, because they kind of didn't have enough flyers. Because also, I think Super Tato Ba's flying in that scene, or is it Tajador? I know he goes Super Tato Ba for the rider kick.
I don't remember right offhand, actually.
Hang on, let me pull it up again, because I timed out the Fourze section already, so... Oh no, he's Super Tato Ba to fly too, so I guess Super Tato Ba can fly. Sure.
But
I know.
But wait a minute. What?
I watched. I'm looking at it. Super Tato Ba's flying.
So there's another whoops.
Yeah,
Because that shouldn't be a thing.
presumably.
I
Okay.
believe that shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
Because... No, that shouldn't be a thing, actually.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think, isn't there only 2 forms that ever actually have fly?
Yeah, it's only Tajador and Puto Terra.
Yeah.
It's Super Tajabot can only teleport. Or run really fast, depending on how you want to interpret those teleports. Anywho, do you want to roll with the rest of the movie now?
I guess so.
Alright, so Haruto and Gentaro are now confronting the Akamizers, and they go Cosmic and Flame Dragon respectively. Thankfully, it's 2v3 now, so Haruto finally realizes, maybe I should block the Akamizer's finisher, and he does, so Gentaro can smack one of them in the face with his sword.
You know, the thing that Haruto probably should have done long before now, at least
I think
once.
I think it's a joke now that Haruto really forgets that he can use Defend, and keeps forgetting to use Defend when he really should be using Defend in the series.
I can see that.
But outside, as we were talking about, the rest of the riders are flying to the scene. Goto is in birthday form. Shotaro and Philip are in double gold extreme. Edgy is in super Tatoba. Meteor is in Meteor Storm. Nadeshiko is in no form change with no other additional weaponry because no one gives her any additional weaponry in this fucking movie, even though she has 2 slots she can use switches in. Thanks, Gentaro. Except now that he went Cosmic, it doesn't matter.
And granted, well, yeah, true. Because Cosmic, it wouldn't matter. Even if she was given a switch, it would kind of go poof. But, you know, kind of is Space Goo that made her own belt. You would think she could duplicate switches.
Not only duplicate switches, but make them better because she made Super Rocket.
I mean, true.
Yeah. I'm just like, because I had that feeling throughout this entire movie of Nadeshiko really needs a form change or something else, because I can feel it every time she's doing a fight scene, which is like, I need something else to smack people with, because all I got is this rocket module, and I'm running out of ways to beat people up with it.
Which, does she not have 2 switches in the belt?
Yeah, she has radar.
Oh.
Yeah, the fat lot of good that's going to do her.
Well, she can lock on her rocket punches.
Yeah, like I said, the fat lot of good that's going to do her. Yeah, also, Terry is in booster because he needs to carry Meteor and Nadeshiko, since neither one of them can fly. Even though Meteor can use his little ball thing that he does as his transformation to fly.
Yeah. You know, I meant to bring that up before when you said about, you know, Booster being mainly for Meteor and Nadeshiko. It's like, yeah. One of them... No, wait a minute. Whoa, it gets better. I just thought about that.
Oh yeah, Nadeshiko was flying earlier in the movie.
Yeah, she essentially used Meteor's little ball thing to get her and Yuki out of the exploded carrier. So
yeah, so technically they could both fly. Oh well.
Oops.
Terry was already carrying around Nadeshiko once in this movie. I guess he was just like, fuck it, I'll do it again.
Yeah, it took me a second too, because I realized that was Axel in bike form, but I for some stupid reason was like, wait, where's Nadeshiko? And then when it cut to it, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Right, I have no bike. Terry, I need to borrow you to be a bike for the scene. You're technically my bike now.
Oh.
So yeah, they're using forms that... Another day. We've already talked about it. But back inside, Gentro brutally, mind you, takes out L because he not only uses his big sword to do his big Genghis slash on him, he picks him up with it, spins him around while he's on the blade, to then throw him off and then kill him. I love how Gentro gets in the no mood, I'm not dealing with you today.
And how it's took him all movie to get to that point.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I've had enough. Fuck this asshole. You're dead. Meanwhile, Gaara goes down to Haruto using the double version of the his wizard sword gun in sword form to take him out. I do like that how Zaten's just like, no, my buddies. I'm just like, oh, you actually care about your minions. That's so rare. Although they're technically your other musketeers.
Yeah.
So now enraged, he takes on both the riders alone. Now with just their fists because he made them toss away their swords. Or he knocked all their swords out of their hands, so it's just fist. But a combo of a drill kick and Haruto going point blank with special, with the Dragon Head special, seemingly destroy him. As the other riders kick the truck, all of them are staying in their forms as they are, except Axel, who transforms into Trial for some reason in this scene. I don't know why, he just does.
Reasons.
Yep. But the truck is seemingly destroyed as it falls off the cliff. Haruto and Gentaro get out with Putrine in the saver, seemingly saving the day. I say seemingly because, well, we're not over. We didn't have a big CGI fight scene.
That and all movie villains must die twice.
Yep.
And some more than that.
Yeah, so the other four riders, Double, Axel, Birth, and O's, they poof. They kind of disappear.
Yep, their magic runs out.
Yep. But this is when Zaten just kind of hops from down the cliff, punches Gentaro, takes the Zaver, and heads back into the truck, which now terrorizes as it's secretly a Predacon because it turns into its fish form. And now it slowly flies down the cliff to the lava. This thing takes forever to fall.
You know, I feel like with this, it's a tall mountain to go down.
Yeah.
It's a short one to go back up, and I'm willing to just say magic.
Yeah. So, realizing that now they have to go chase down the truck, Gentaro pulls out the fusion switch, and now that Nadeshiko's here, he can do fusion with both her and Meteor. So now he gets the rocket modules in Nadeshiko colors on his arms. And he gets a Nadeshiko switch in the cross slot that when he turns it on, he gets skis. Because he...
Yes. I mean...
Because he totally can't... Because he totally can't fly with the rocket modules that are the exact same kind of situation that Rocket States has, and Rocket States can fly.
Or, you know, if they needed to do something, why did it have to be skis? I mean, we do have wheel kind of deal.
I assume since it's a proper Nadeshiko switch, it turns into whatever Gentaro thinks he needs for the situation, and he thought, I need to go down a hill, I need skis.
I like that. I actually like that. Because,
that's what I assumed.
To be fair, Nadeshiko's form is purely because she wanted to be like Gentaro.
Yep.
So, sure, I like that.
Yeah. Because it is just a straight up Nadeshiko switch that gives him skis on both of his legs. And they're just regular skis for reference, folks. They're not just any fancy looking skis. No, they're just skis.
And both legs. Because,
yep.
That's how Nadeshko's switches work, is completely against how the Fourze system is supposed to.
Yep. and now I have the question of, okay, we have a confirmed rider in Fourze in the form of Icarus. If Gentro uses fusion with all three of those riders present, does he also get Icarus in there, and does the Icarus give him something? I don't know if anyone's... Because I don't know if anyone's decided to follow that train of thought yet. I had that thought recently. But that's not the only movie-exclusive form. I'm going to put in quotations, because about that. Gives up the last of her magic to create the special Rush Ring, which allows Haruto to turn into a red version of All Dragon, called All Dragon Rush. I think. I want to say that's the official name for it. So how did you feel about...
I don't actually know on that one.
Yeah. I want to say it is. I want to say it's more or less just an all Flame Dragon version, or just a flame version of All Dragon. So how did you feel about these two movie exclusive forms?
I mean, meh.
But it is really hard to be exclusive when they are both practically exact same ones we've seen before.
Well, technically this would be the first time we've seen Wizards, but yeah.
Yeah, this would be the early debut of All Dragon, just in red. Also, I'm looking at the Rider Wiki. Yes, it's called Special Russ, and also for some reason, the SIC version of All Dragon is counted as a different version of All Dragon. I guess because it looks different. Because Haruto's head is replaced with Dragon's head. I mean... Shit. Was it colon? Fuck. IMG colon, right?
No.
Oh, just...
Okay, it is pinned somewhere. IMG space.
Okay, yeah, IMG space. Okay.
It's in all staff chat, by the way.
Yeah, I just saw.
As I said, I've got it pinned.
Yeah, there you go. Assuming it shows up.
Did I actually not add it to the TGSR one? That's weird. I thought I did.
Oops.
And that is not the spot I want you to be in.
Yeah, that's counted as a different All Dragon, essentially. According to the wiki. I don't know.
I mean... Sure.
But anywho, with these two movie exclusive forms, they proceed to go down the mountain giving chase and lay into the Predacon ship. So Haruto gets to show off all the fancy Flame Dragon version of the All Dragon parts, and Gentro just keeps shooting the rocket modules at the ship because that's the only attack he's got. So
literally. Which I also have a problem with that. It's a minor one, mainly because of cutting away as soon as the rocket gets shot off. Do they just reform, or do they come back off screen on him?
I think they come back. Because I believe he catches them at one point.
I think it cuts away every time. And it's
Maybe.
I
just assumed they came back.
I want to assume they come back, but we are dealing with Nadeshiko. They could just reform. Because space magic.
Yeah. Well, anywho, they lay into it enough to crack open an opening, so they both pop their rider kicks. Gentro's does a spinning kick like he does in Rocket States, and Haruto does his usual rider kick. But Gentro's is more or less open away, so Haruto can rider kick Zaten, and Gentro can destroy the Zaver because he just punches it in midair. I guess that's enough. I don't know why he didn't do that sooner.
Yeah, and it also makes you question why, when they beat him the first time, Gentro just tried to catch it and not destroy it.
Yeah. So the day is saved, and everyone hops out of the underworld, so the kids and the person can wake up. But before they do, Gentro hands over the Fourze driver so Haruto can go deliver it to his present self. And Haruto, using a time ring, because he just has that, sends them back through time so they can go back and be in the 5 years later.
The only instance of time travel that makes any kind of sense in this entire movie.
Yep. But this is when the kids wake up, the masks fall off. They remember nothing.
Yeah.
Because they have to have their character arcs preserved for the 5 years later portion from the Fourze part of this movie.
Okay.
So they just leave.
But I've got a thought on this. And this could potentially work. Why did we have to wipe their memory? Because that's going to be the big question to come back to when I get finished with this. Okay. They essentially were all sharing one, to put it in a light sense, dream, technically.
Yep.
Okay. Assuming that, we could say that the magic involved within the underworld there is what gave them their psychic powers.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And also coincides with the flashback we got where the one was like, I've always been treated as a monster ever since I was young.
Yep.
Because he presumably looks about the same kind of age range.
Yeah.
So why did we have to wipe the memory?
Hell if I know.
Like, that same development that we saw in the Fourze section could have still happened, but he could have said, ever since this one weird incident that I don't remember everything of. Like, maybe remembering parts of it, but not understanding why this happened, kind of deal.
So they don't recognize Gentro or Ryusei when they transform. I guess. Or just them in general.
Except, though, weren't they already gone before the kids' masks came off?
No, because the kids saw them untransformed fighting. Because they were nearby when they were doing all the untransformed fighting stuff, and then when they transformed. Also, the kids saw them in rider form because they ran to them and were hanging out with them for a hot second before we went to the whole truck part.
Except for, that all took place in the underworld. That could be parts of it they forget. That's
right.
why I made sure to point that part out. Don't make them have a full memory wipe, have them forget bits and pieces of it.
Right.
You know, like the important parts.
Yeah, if you have to do that, you have to add in that part.
Like,
yeah.
It would be far more believable for them to have missing parts of the memory as opposed to not having any of it.
Yeah.
At least I think so, anyhow.
Anywho, now that the kids are shoot off screen by Rinko and Shuppei, even though they're still here, they kind of just can't be here for this next part because that's when the main person in the center wakes up, and it turns out to be the donut shop owner. And as everyone is confused, and as I said at the top of this, Haruto's dick is extremely confused by this, as now he kind of probably felt something towards someone of the opposite gender and twice his age. And he is probably not used to that. And now he's like, fuck, I don't know how to feel about this. And I love he's just like, yeah, I promised you to meet out of the underworld, and we did. We already did. So bye. I'm gonna forget about this.
I'm gonna forget this even happened, and we're just gonna go on about the show normally.
Yep. Although Owner does make a poutine donut in episode 14. And also, I think I brought this up when we were watching Wizard. Potrine is not surprised when Haruto transforms.
Of course, you know, I just thought of something else. Owner's the only one that usually calls him Haru.
Yeah.
So they had more than just a couple of little hints at that.
Yeah. Again, I wish we had Potrine more. This is just even if we have to go a roundabout way of just saying like, oh, here's someone else who coincidentally is the same actress and looks like her, but it's totally different character, and she's Potrine now because of 5 million complicated reasons that we're writing in here, but we want her back. Do it. She had wonderful chemistry with Haruto.
You know, now that I'm thinking about that, that makes it even funnier.
Yeah. But meanwhile, we're back in the future. The kids are now more or less forming their own little club called the Youth Alliance, and Oki, the only member of the Kamen Rider Club, will be supporting them. Meaning, hey, spin off to an Ozman series. Wink, wink.
Nudge, nudge.
No one gets the wink. But the old club looks on. Jake, once more mimicking Shotaro's, is like, oh, the Fourze driver's gone. But Kingo's like, nah, the driver's Kentro's buddy, and it will come back to him eventually in a story that will never be written because we're going to let you headcanon that one.
Because, of course.
My personal headcanon, Nadesco just duplicates it for him.
I mean, to be fair, it could be that. I could also see it be a case of, you know, technically Kengo made the first one. What's truthfully stopping him from making another?
Very true. Well, did he make it or did he finish it?
I think he technically finished it, but I mean, you can't tell me he doesn't have enough of a knowledge about it to be able to make another one.
Mm-hmm. And remake the other 4 switches. Because I don't think all 40 switches went into that lava pit.
Yeah. I mean, they shouldn't have. He wasn't in Cosmic, so I mean...
Yeah. But yeah, anywho, we see the old photo is finally taken. Like I was saying, it got taken post all these events, so... Nah.
Yeah.
But we end the movie with Haruto showing up to present Gentro, tossing him the Fourze driver, and telling him, hey, thanks for helping out a rider. Another rider. By the way, here's the engage ring. See you in 5 years.
Which, technically, it'd be sooner than that, but...
Yeah.
Meh.
Also, technically, that doesn't have to be the same Fourze engage ring, because he could have had Wajima make him a Fourze engage ring, so that's how it could have entered this loop. So technically, there's 4 Fourze engage rings, but that's my assumption about all this ring shit going on in this movie of just rings popping up out of nowhere is that Wajima would just made them. Although how the rider rings happen, I don't fucking know.
That was magic.
Yes. Something about Koyomi with magic in the fucking Philosopher's Stone that's in her. I don't know. Anyway, we end on that note with a post-credit stinger of, hey, Nito's here as Beast, and he flies off because he's going to go join the show at some point after this. I forgot when. And that is movie Tyson Ultimatum. God damn it, I want to love this movie, but why does it have so many weird things that I'm just like, why? Why? Why must you...
I honestly kind of feel like with this movie is similar to how some of the arcs in Fourze was for me, where it was like, it's not bad, but I kind of can't also say that it was really good either, because there is things where it's like, did we forget what we wrote down here? Because that feels like we missed something just within the confines of what we did.
Which it feels weird for me because, oddly enough, because after this, like, the Wizard solo movie doesn't reference this at all, and also does not have Gain cameoing in it. And then you get to the Heisei Rider special, which is where Kota gets to make his early series debut, or his early bird cameo. But we don't reference anything from before this. This is kind of the end of the, weirdly enough, the cross-movie continuity that got started in A to Z and ended here.
Yeah.
Because every movie, in a sense, referenced the previous one to some capacity.
And I kind of feel like that was a touch that was at least needed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was needed necessarily to the point where we covered 3 shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that might have been stretching it a little too hard there.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, it would be that nice little handoff to where the movies actually were within the confines of the show, and both the show and future movies also reference back to it.
Yeah,
because case in point, the Super Rocket Switch does get used in the show.
Yep.
It's not a movie exclusive form. Fusion, I feel like, had it not been in there as late as it was, possibly could have been used too.
Yeah.
But either way, the Fusion Switch did get more than just one use, and we did see that as more riders using the Fourze system exist, that could still grow.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been nice if since this technically would be the first movie we would see Wizard in any kind of real action, if maybe we had something there that could carry on through the rest of it.
Mm-hmm. It feels like something they tried to recapture with the Heisei Generations movies, since those did, like this movie, bring back more than just the last season's writer and their supporting cast.
But they went too big.
Yeah, they were like, "I'll bring in everybody."
What they really looking at it now, what they probably should have done is have it set up to where you have a show like, okay, case in point, we're basically starting fresh with 01.
Mm-hmm.
Have 01's first crossover movie with the next writer start building maybe a bigger story that could continue to be built as they keep going.
Yeah.
Like something like that probably is what needs to take that slot.
Yeah, more or less give 01 and every writer after him for the Reira era a Foundation X-like villain to just be in the background and to be brought up for crossover movies and then to disappear again. Here is a big threat that requires more than one main writer.
And maybe make it kind of seep into the show a little bit to where it's not completely forgotten.
Yeah.
And then just kind of leave that as a unfinished edge at the end of it. But I feel like that's too big brain of a thought for them.
That's too much like cross production work. Like you need, like, to use the MCU comparison, you need someone like a Kevin Feige to be over every single writer production to make sure the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and to say to someone who wants to go outside of and break continuity to say to them, no, you can't do that. Stay in continuity. You can't do that.
Except, I agree, except for one thing. If they could at least have if they could at least have it set up to where they've got a writing team that's specifically designed for writing stuff for the crossovers that maybe is separate from the shows, where they could be like, okay, here's what we're doing in the show, what can you do that can tie into the show and work for these crossovers?
Yeah, that would, like, some sort of like connective tissue on the production end of it goes a long way in making sure that this stuff like connects.
Because to be fair, we have far too many, case in point with this movie, where it was wrote by multiple people.
Yeah.
And that tends to be where the problems start occurring. Because one person has an idea, the other person has another idea, and then it's, how do we mash this together to make it work?
Yeah. Which, Megamax had the same case, but magically worked, but that might be more of the exception than the rule.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, I feel like that is more the exception. But it's one of those, it's like, for them to pull off something massive like that, it would take having to have a united story. Where it's kind of, each crossover movie is like an arc of the show as opposed to a standalone, this villain's the only thing there.
Yeah. I can say that I still like this movie.
Oh, like I said, I don't think it's bad. I just can't say that it's spotless either, kind of deal, because oh boy.
Yeah, it's nowhere good as Megamax, but it still has things that I like and things I wish we got more of, but we didn't, because all of this rebooting, all of these Ishimori heroes, kind of just none of them worked. The only one that did was the Metal Hero stuff, and that more or less just became a vehicle for us to do, or just a slot to fill in when we didn't do a Sentai crossover. Even though we're back to doing those now. Because last year we got Lupat versus Q Ranger, and this year we're getting Lupat versus Ryu Solgar. Yeah, it's a good movie. I guess check it out. I still think Megamax is better. And I think we've also gotten crossover movies that are better than this. But I guess we'll talk about those if we ever cover the relevant series attached to those movies. Because, unfortunately for us, at least one of them we get to talk about is definitely not the case. Because starting next week, we're talking Ghost. Not only are we talking Ghost, but I will pull up the watch list here. We have, and you probably heard us talk about this on the pre-show a little bit, 17 episodes worth of TGSR of Ghost material. Because not only are we covering all 50 episodes of Ghost, we're also covering 5 different movies that are all related to Ghost. So that is Movie Tyson Genesis. Oh, Movie Tyson Genesis. We will have a long conversation about continuity with you. Have you ever wondered why Kiriko and Tamari have been married twice but never divorced? You can thank this movie. Canonically speaking, they've been married twice. Or at the least, they've had 2 marriage ceremonies. Yeah. We are also covering Kamen Rider Ichigo, which was the Superhero Tyson slot. That is not a Superhero Tyson movie, but as I've come to realize, has a knockoff version of Foundation X that is tied to Shocker. And I hate that. I hate that so much.
Because Shocker.
Yep. We're also covering the Ghost solo film, 100 Icons. Are you ready for fucking Takaru to die again? Because this is one of the death counters.
Time?
I believe it's 3rd time at this point.
Oh.
It might be 4th. I don't know. Takaru dies a lot for being.
I mean, I know next week we'll talk about one of the times he dies.
The first time he dies.
Like, I know I can say that.
Then we are covering, in movie order, the first of the Heisei Generations movie, which is X8 and Ghost versus Dr. Pac-Man. Featuring one of the writers you saw this movie. You might have saw in this movie. Haruto returns for that movie, along with Tamari in various ADR clips of Kocha as Gaim. Because we couldn't get Kocha back, so we just used various ADR clips. I believe specifically from the final episode of Gaim.
Probably.
Or the final couple episodes.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know if anyone's placed where those ADR clips are from. And then finally, we are covering the Ghost v Cinema Rebirth, Kamen Rider Spectre. How do you like retcons for your secondary writer?
I mean, isn't that kind of what happens to Ghost part of the way through?
Kind of. Only more so. And also, how do you feel about a secondary writer getting a repaint of the main writer's final form as their movie exclusive final form?
I mean, we know it's not the last time they do that.
No, it's not. At least they go one down sometimes. So yeah, we're in for a bumpy ride as for the both of us, finally watch all of Ghost, because neither one of us have watched all of it.
And I realized after I did the looking to see when we watched Wizard, I realized I misspoke. We will have at some point talked about everything from Decade all the way to current.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is our future here at TGSR. But if you like what you've seen from us going 2.5 hours on a movie that is less than 2 hours long,
barely,
drop us a follow. We really appreciate it. We are chipping away at that follower goal / affiliate goal. If you can get us to either of those markers, we will do the goals listed. Tommy will be doing some Halo custom maps. I will be doing All Rider Revolution on the 3DS emulated. We've got a Discord, ! Discord in chat. We'll get you the link for that. Drop by, say hi, drop us questions in the show chats, and we'll answer them here on our other podcast, TGS, that you might have saw yesterday / the day before, since it's 2 o'clock in the morning here. For me. We'll answer where it's more relevant. And finally, at TG Saloon on Twitter, we'll get you updates on when we go live, so you don't miss a show. But that'll do it for me, for Tommy. Good night, everybody. We'll see you in a week for Ghost, and enjoy the rest of the week of all the other stuff we're going to be doing.